to do this entire Q&A with my stupid British accent. Hello, Jesse. Hello, Tom.
Hello. Hello, Frank.
How are you then?
Oh, not bad. You?
Quite well, thank you.
Good then.
If you don't know the movie's on Blu-ray, Fred, you oversaw the operating of these, right?
Say that again?
You oversaw cleaning up and putting these onto the Blu-rays?
I did. I oversaw the cleaning up and the Blu-ray in both of these films.
And they look amazing for 80s films. I mean, 80s films don't usually look so hot. The film stock was pretty crappy.
Yeah.
Actually, the film, I'm not going to be British anymore. The film stock actually was improved a couple of years later, but the stock that this was shot on, the prints rather, actually did start to fade, but we had an IP, and very, very pleased with it. But the main thing I want to say about this DVD Blu-ray that you should all own, actually I take it back because I don't make a dime on it. So, Sony, suck it. No, we love Sony because they let me put the original ending back on. The ending of the movie that you just saw blows. I don't like it. I think it's not good. But because there was a little contretemps, a little bit of a fight between myself and the studio about the ending. Does anybody know this story? Am I talking to a... Nobody knows this story? The original ending of the film was different than what you just saw. And the original ending of the film involves a visual effects shot, which was not completed at the time that I showed the film to the studio. So it was confusing to them. And I explained to them, we just have to finish the effects shot and then it will be really cool. They said, but we don't get it. It's in black and white and has, maps, there's mismatched, and there's a lighting stand in it. And I said, the effects shot isn't finished, but when it's finished, it's going to be fantastic. We don't get it. Well, the effects shot isn't finished, but we don't understand. Have a different ending. Okay. Can you come up with a cheap scare ending? They asked. Yes, I can do that. I'll come up with a cheap scare ending. What if the dog comes back? The little dog comes padding back. And then Jill, looking awfully cute in her whatnot, her gown, and she kneels down and the little dog pops the creep out. And then we cut to the end, the credits. And they said, fantastic, do it. Never in Hollywood or anywhere in a creative environment tell somebody a bad idea if there's any possibility that they'll say, yes, go do it. So, to finish my long-winded story, the original ending of the film is on the DVD and Blu-ray that was released last year or the year before, so go get it.
Yeah.
And Tom's demise is in question in the director's cut, in my opinion. But I can't tell you more because there might be a sequel someday.
Tom, so you said this is your favorite role. Can you give some insight why you like this one so much?
Oh my God, you just watched it. Yeah, it's my favorite role because I had all the great lines ever written for anybody in a film, thanks to Fred. I mean, my Lord. Thrill Me, Miller Time, Spanky, Alfalfa. My favorite, well, girls, I got good news, I got bad news. Since your dates are here, what's the bad news? They're dead. Oh, God. Yeah, I love it. I love doing this film. Although I'll tell you, the first day of shooting, the first day that I was called to shoot on the film, they were shooting down at USC, down on the campus, near the campus, and I was called about 11 o'clock in the morning. They had started much earlier than that, but I was called at 11, and I shot at 11 o'clock that night. And this was my shot. The camera is down at the ground, shooting that way. And I went, and you saw my feet. The end. First day, that's a wrap. Okay, we're done. Let's go home. And I thought, Jesus, Mary Louise, what the hell are we doing? But it got a lot better after that. Yeah, I had a great time. It's my favorite. It was just a lot of fun and a lot of really wonderful shots and setups and people to work with, and it was great.
And did you have Tom in mind for this role when you were writing it? Or, I mean, he was a big cult figure by that time.
I'd seen him in The Fog, I'd seen him in Escape from New York, I'd seen him in Creep Show was before this, wasn't it? But the fact of the matter is, I didn't think of him as Tom Atkins' horror icon. He was just an actor to me. And I think he would agree that didn't really happen for a couple of years after that. It wasn't like his hero Vincent Price, who eventually that became his moniker and his trademark. No, the truth of the matter is, you write a part, and you hope somebody comes in and does it sort of how you envision it. And with Tom, it was a little bit different. He came in and that was him. He just was it. And he left the room, and I turned to Eileen Starger, who cast the movie, and I said, that's him.
And the first time when he's walking into the sorority house and he stops to smell the roses, that was...
That's his idea.
What?
When he stopped to smell the roses?
Oh, yeah, I think I did that on the way into the house. Yeah.
You asked me, you said, can I do this? And I said,
So, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. And
and then I did a close-up.
then you focused on the rose at the end. Yeah.
Because you did that.
Which was a nice touch. I thought that was nice.
Collaboration.
He remembered. He's a wonderful director, Fred, and a wonderful writer.
How come he doesn't work more?
2 terrific films.
So the film's clearly an homage to classic horror films with the aliens from outer space. The film's based at Corwin University. The kids are named Romero, Hooper, Cronenberg. What films directly influenced Night of the Creeps?
I'd say the films that directly influenced were the original Romero Dead trilogy, definitely. Alien was a huge influence on the physiognomy of the creeps themselves. There's a little bit of, I think, subconscious John Hughes going on there, and a big influence, which I've only really realized recently, is National Lampoon's Analyze, directed by John Landis.
What was the last thing?
Analyze. By the way, one of the great comedies of the sound era, in my opinion.
Let's open it up for some questions. Anyone? Yeah.
This question's for Mr. Dekker. Not just what influenced you
I
on...
just said John Landis, and he's wearing a slaughtered lamb sweatshirt.
Yeah. Aside from the movies that influenced you on Night of the Creeps, overall, like, what are the top 3 films that influenced you? You watched them and said, you know what? This is what I want to do.
There was only one.
Okay.
Jaws.
Jaws. All right. How about you, Tom? What was you wanted to be an actor? What was the movie you saw and said, wow, I really want to do it? How about you?
Jesus. I have no idea. So, Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Love that movie. Yes.
We were just talking about that earlier. I love that movie, and all those Karloff, Frankenstein, Lugosi, and Elsa Lanchester, and Wife of Frankenstein. I loved all of them.
But when were you aware of a performance? Like, you saw somebody acting on the screen and said, wow, that someday, presumably you were thinking about stage acting, but you thought, I would like to do that.
I don't know. I don't know when I thought about performances. I also loved The Thing, the original in 1951 with James
Yes.
Evans, the alien from the flying saucer. I don't know. I don't know. I can't put a finger on it. They just washed over me. I just loved those movies, and I loved fantasy movies. Like, Fred and I went to Rochester a couple of summers ago for a festival up there, the Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps, and it was
and Halloween
held.
3. And Halloween 3.
Oh, and Halloween 3, oh my God, yeah.
Which I haven't seen on the big
Good
screen.
God, yeah, I
since it
forgot
opened.
about that. But it was held at the Eastern House, the Kodak place, you know, up there. And they vault a lot of old films and restore them and save them and keep them and treasure them. And a movie that my mom took me to in 1947 or 8, and I was a young, a wee lad, and I never forgot it, and it's always been my favorite movie of all time, I think, was Stairway to Heaven, or It's a Matter of Life or Death. It had 2 titles, and it was by 2 directors.
Powell and Pressburger.
Yeah. And they asked me before we went up there, do you have a favorite film and would you like to see it? Because we might have it. And I told him that movie, and it turned out to be Martin Scorsese's personal print of that movie.
Wow.
It knocked my socks off as much 2 summers ago as it did in 19...
We were bawling like babies.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious.
Just
all alone in the theaters. The
tears
in this giant theater.
pouring down. Yeah. Great.
Perhaps 2 questions to Mr. Atkins. Number 1, in your research for the role, did you interview anybody from Pittsburgh in the homicide division or detective bureau? And perhaps the second question would be, do you prefer film over theater, live, or vice versa, because you're adapted to both?
Well, thanks. No, I did not interview anybody from Pittsburgh Homicide Division or anybody. I don't know. I do know Terry. Terry. He's an old retired homicide cop. Works with Cyril Weck now and teaches at Duquesne University. I know him, but I know him from drinking, not interviewing for. Because he's an old pal of a dead fraternity brother of mine. But early days, I was telling the fellas I did I played a sergeant on Harry O with David Jansen and Henry Darrow down in San Diego. We shot that for a number of weeks. I can't remember, but I had a running bro. I was on every week as this not very bright police sergeant, and I did. That was the first time I ever went to. I went to the homicide squad or the police in San Diego, and a fella there, a lieutenant in homicide, showed me. He brought out a case, a file that was done. It was solved. It was the guy was away forever, and we talked about this, how they processed that case, and I found it fascinating to do that, to talk with a real cop about that kind of stuff. And when I did another series later on up in L.A., the police kind of thing, Serpico, it was a terrible series and short-lived and well-deserved to be short-lived. And not to speak ill of another actor, but David Burney played Serpico, and he should have been playing Shaw. But I did. I went on a ride-along with the cops up there in L.A., and that was great. That was really instructive. Oh man, the shit that happened so fast, you don't even know. You know, it just, man, it's happening, and that was fun. And about a year and a half ago, I come out of this gyro joint. I told this a couple of weeks ago. I come out of a gyro joint out near where I live in Peters Township, and there's 3 guys in the parking lot, and as I'm getting into my car, one guy comes over in a sweatshirt, and they've been running on the trail, and they said, "Are you a cop?" I said, "No, I'm an old actor. I played a lot of cops, but I'm an old actor." "We know you're an old actor, but you play a cop so good, we thought maybe you were a cop before you became an actor." I thought that was a great compliment. There you have my research in compliment.
Yeah, theater or film?
What? Theater or film? Film, because I'm lazy and you get paid more money. And theater doesn't pay much money and never has and never will. So, unless you're doing the lead in a musical on Broadway, then you get paid.
Tom, one of the reasons I fell in love with you as an actor was your ability to get much younger, attractive female stars in bed. What? Sorry. No, Jamie Lee Curtis is 19 in The Fog, and you were probably about 40. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah!
Stacey Nelkin and Halloween 3. You
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Woo!
Man, I'll tell you.
You get
Only in the movies. It ain't like that in real life. No, it's true. Jamie was 19 and I was 34 when we did the, or 35, somewhere in there, in The Fog. Oh my God, yeah. People ask that, you know. Jesus Christ, you're driving along in this truck, you pick up this girl, and she says, "Are you weird?" And I say, "Yeah, I am weird," and then, cut, you're in bed together.
Yep.
And the same with Halloween 3, Stacey.
I know, her dad just died, and you ended up in bed together.
What?
Her dad was just killed.
Yeah, I know, and there we are. Where would you like to sleep, Dr. Chalice? That's a stupid question. Oh, yeah. They were fun. And honest to God, it's only in the movies, so it doesn't happen in real life. Stacey is still terrific. She, you know, I don't see Jamie much anymore, but I saw her. The last time I saw her was here in Pittsburgh a long time ago when she was doing some oddball film she did here with the God, I can't, about 1987 or 9, somewhere in there. But Stacey, I saw not long ago at a horror movie convention. She's terrific and happily married and has a young boy and lives in Manhattan with some doctor or something. She's married.
May I ask a question about your allegiance to Pittsburgh? Because I know that my cousin Jared, who brought me here tonight, we're very proud of the fact that you have a very strong allegiance here.
Well, I grew up here. It's my hometown. I love this town. I was born in Bellevue Hospital and first couple of years on Rosacca Place here in the Mexican War Streets on the north side, and then until I was 4, then we moved up to Find You until I was 4, and then we moved over to Knoxville, because my dad worked down J&L Steel, and lived there until I went to New York and became an actor. So, yeah. An old Irish playwright friend of mine, Tom Murphy, grew up in Ireland and then moved to England because he could make more money doing his plays there. But he always, I did a play of his in New York a long time ago, and he said, all the writers from Ireland have to leave Ireland to make a living, but they're always looking over their shoulder to home. And I think I was always that way about Pittsburgh, and when I had the chance in '86, I moved back here, and I've been here since then. So I've spent more time back here than I did in New York and LA. Yeah.
Awesome.
And happily, I'm happy to be back.
Was there any significance for us to having one of the lead characters handicapped? And have you ever got any input from disabled people about being inspired?
Handicapped character. You know, sometimes as a writer, you just, stuff is kind of just subconscious. You don't really know why you do it. There's not an agenda. I do feel like by not making a big deal out of it, it kind of, you know, legitimizes, you know, people who are handicapped. They're just people. It's just a character in the movie who happens to have this malady. But there was never a conscious effort to make some political statement.
Questions? Yeah, Ben?
I just would add a statement. I think your movie was just too ahead of its time, because if you look at movies now, Shaun of the Dead, Slither, obviously influenced by Night of the Creeps, and I just want to say it's finally time that you got your due, so I just want to give you a shout out and say, like, horror comedy, it started with you. I mean, I saw Shaun of the Dead first, but then I was flipping through Showtime, and I just happened to catch Night of the Creeps, and I've been in love with it ever since. It's like my 4th time seeing it on the big screen.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is from Mr. Dekker. Now, you mentioned the alternate ending. Now, even though the studio didn't want it, how did it end up appearing in all the TV prints of the movie?
For some reason, my post-production team and myself were entrusted with doing the TV version. Normally, you release your movie, and then a network buys it, and then somebody in the back of a room on Gower Street in Hollywood, you know, cuts it up. I was lucky enough to be asked to do the TV version concurrently. So any swearing or language that needed to be changed, I could write it and direct it on the post-production stage so it would sound real, because so often, I mean, if you've ever seen the TV version of Goodfellas, it's hilarious. So that was good, I got to do that. And then it came down the pike that the movie was too short, that the TV version had to be a certain length, which was longer than the movie was. There was one scene in particular that was the idea of a studio executive who I love dearly, but who shall remain nameless. He had an idea for a scene, which I just thought was the worst idea of all time. So I decided to shoot it as poorly as possible, so that he would see it and go, that was a terrible idea. Which I did. I made a stinky, stinky scene and showed it to him, and he went, you're right, Fred, that was a bad idea. Yeah, well, I gave it a shot, though. I did my best. So that went on the cutting room floor. A whole bunch of little scenes. When you make a movie, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. Well, if your movie's too short and you need to make it longer, all you have are the bad scenes. So the TV version has all of the bad scenes that I cut out for a reason. But the original ending is longer than this ending. So in went the original ending. But the director's cut is the first time that it's in the body of the movie as it should be, with all the stinky scenes cut out. Does that answer your question?
Have any of you seen the ending with the spaceship?
Yeah,
back
totally.
Yeah. God, I love that. It was haunting.
The Atkins smoking carcass is pretty sweet too, just walking around. That was awesome too.
We talked about Alan Costello meet Frankenstein, and it seems like your film, your second film, Monster Squad, it seems that
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, I loved Abbott Costello and Frankenstein when I was a kid. Loved the Monster Rallies, the Universal Horror Pictures. And I also loved Hal Roach's Little Rascals. And I had this, in retrospect, kind of ridiculously stupid idea. Just, let's just do Little Rascals with monsters. And I went to my college buddy, Shane Black, and said, hey, Shane, let's do Little Rascals with monsters. And go, okay. And, we wrote it, and some fool said, oh, here you go. Here's some money to make out of it.
And do you still keep in touch?
That is a knockout movie.
Yeah.
Monster Squad. God, I love that one. I love that movie. I'm sorry I'm not in it. That's a terrific film.
What I don't understand is why you're not in it. I think it was, I love Peter Hyams, but he was and my producer, who was also a director.
I think he hated me.
No. Did you come in?
No. No, I never came in to meet anybody.
I think it was Peter just sort of, well,
Yeah.
I probably said, oh, let's bring Tom in, Bill.
I don't think so. No, I think they wanted Stephen.
I have remorse. I have remorse about it now.
You should have no remorse. Oh my God! Look what we're doing up here.
Stephen's good. Stephen's fine in the movie, but I can't really remember why you're not in the movie. Anyway,
Nah.
you should be.
I thought Stephen Mock was swell in it, and, I saw him in Baltimore at one of those conventions, and he was happy to be there, happy to have done it, and he was good. He's a rabbi now.
What?
Honest to God, swear to God. He said, I can be your rabbi now. He's studying, I think, to be a rabbi or something. I don't know.
If you haven't seen the film, it's kind of racy. I guess back in the 80s it wasn't so bad, but you got a 5-year-old girl who calls the guy's chicken shit. You got the 11-year-old boy who's got the shotgun, that kid. I mean, did you get any flack over that?
No. Political correctness crept into our culture 12, 15 years ago, maybe less, maybe more. But at the time, Shane and I were writing either the way that we actually talked as kids or remember kids actually talking, or, and this is very much the Shane influence, 10 and 12-year-olds talking like Borscht Belt comedians. But that was just our take on it, and we never censored ourselves. We never said, we never thought, oh, we can't do that, because that just wasn't the way it was back in the 80s, and even less so in the 70s, and even less so in the 60s.
Yeah.
The last, however many years, each decade becomes more and more, oh, careful, oh, somebody may be offended by that, oh, don't say that, be careful.
Yeah.
And it's, I appreciate that people don't want to be offended, but it really cramps creativity. Because if you're second guessing what you're doing while you're doing it, then you're not really doing it.
Any questions? Yeah, sir.
Mr. Atkins, you've had I'd say, really good chances to work with 3 great writer-directors, Mr. Dekker, Mr. Romero, and Mr. Carpenter. How was it working for writer-directors versus normal directors? And as you mentioned with the Roses scene, how collaborative were they when you actually got to be on the set?
Who's Rosenstein?
No, with the Rose scene.
Smell the roses.
I can't. I still don't get what rose.
The rose scene in the film when you stop and smell the roses.
Oh. Well,
Would John or George let you do the roses? Is what.
With Fred, I was coming out of my old Merc or Ford or whatever the hell it was with skirts. God, I love driving that thing around North Hollywood. And I pulled up and I get out and I walk in and I saw this rose bush and I thought, ooh, and then I said, so it's okay if I do that, don't I? And he said, yeah, sure. So I did. Richard Donner in Lethal Weapon would have said, sure, go ahead. John Carpenter probably would have said, I don't know. George Romero, sure, go ahead. There you are. That's it in a nutshell. Carpenter was very kind of protective of his own stuff and kind of not open to much, and everybody else was, especially Fred and George and Dickie Don. Yeah, they were very easy, very open. We were talking about Donner Lethal Weapon when we were doing that. I was only in 2 scenes in that movie, and the one where Gary Busey kills me from the helicopter. It was shot in Palos Verdes in the beautiful section south of LA, with a 150-foot drop to the ocean out back, and he had the front street taped off so that people would kind of keep a distance from the house and not disturb the shooting. But he would go out there and smoke cigars and shoot the shit with all the neighbors and tell them what he was going to do and ask them what they thought. And he genuinely cared about what they thought and listened to them. He was a terrific, old-fashioned Hollywood director in the best sense of the word. Great old guy.
Well, I was going to ask a question about stage again. Were you not McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest?
I was. I played McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest at the original in 1975 at the Pittsburgh Public Theater. Yes, when I was a child. When I was a child.
I ever saw you, and I thought it was a brilliant production. Could you lend some insight into your character development as McMurphy?
Oh, man, I love doing that. I don't know. I'm a pretty instinctive actor. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about stuff and working it. And I just, kind of try to learn the words as best I can and get a handle on the guy and just do it. And it was such a treat. It's a wonderful role, as you know. I mean, it's a great role, and it knocked the shit out of Pittsburgh when we did that play. It sent the public through the roof, and they were in cream gravy from then on for subscribers and everybody coming. It was a terrific production. One of the things I remember most about it, and it didn't have a lot to do with anything, but we were miming kind of through a lot of the rehearsals. The guys were playing cards around this table, and McMurphy comes in and joins in their card game and then brings his own deck of pornographic cards. And we're doing all that shit, around the table and pretending, oh wow. So I went over to Liberty Avenue to some old sex shop over there, and I bought a deck of pornographic cards, and I took them to rehearsal the next day. That nailed my character, and it nailed all their characters, because they could not act their reactions. They just reacted to what they were looking at. And, I had that deck of cards for years and years. And only recently I went to look for it, and I couldn't find it. I have no idea. I think my son... I think my son took it with him out to Seattle when he went out there. Yeah, I don't have a lot of insight into the guy. I just, man, I thought, what a treat to be able to do this. I was tickled. Ben Shackman hired me to do that, and a guy named Jacques Cartier directed it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Another thing I remember about that, we went to I hate to put it in this term, but we went to the wacky ward out there in maybe, which then became a state hospital later, and now it's gone, I think. But we went there just to see the get the feel of what it was like to be in a locked ward with people who were mentally, emotionally challenged, and oh man, what a day. It was really haunting being with these people in the ward, and they were all waiting for breakfast or something, lunch, and I remember talking to this woman and having a lovely conversation, and then in the middle of it, she went to Albuquerque. She just went somewhere else. Her eyes left her, everything. She was still sitting there, but she was gone, and I thought, ooh, wow. I wish I could play that. I don't have a role to do that in, but wow. There was another guy climbing up the screen windows, and the attendant went over to him and said, get down off there. And the guy said, are we having cornflakes today? Are we having cornflakes today? God damn it. We had them yesterday. Are we having them today? Are we having... Yeah, it was weird. It was a great role, though. Thrilled to play.
Fred, you were, what, 26 when you directed this?
Yes.
And how did you get started in Hollywood at such a young age to begin with such a big project?
I just started writing in college and wanted to be a director. And in those days, that was one way in. Now it's direct commercials and do special effects. But in those days, you could write your way in as a director. And I just started writing, and fresh out of college, I had a script that I felt was... By the way, if any fledgling screenwriters, throw the first 3 away. Just throw them away. Put them in a drawer. Because it's like a faucet, I found. That you have to get the rust out, get your bad stuff out, and then, it's my 3rd or 4th script. I said, okay, this is okay. I got an agent, got a job, and then just sort of stampeded towards coming up with something that I could direct myself. And that turned out to be this, and it was very strange. I gave it to my agent and said, I'm directing this. He goes, what do you mean? I said, send it out, I'm directing. And I said, okay. And within a week, we got a phone call, what do you got? I said, well, I have this little 16mm science fiction thing that's not finished. It's about 2 minutes that I made at UCLA with my friends, and sent that over, and they called back and said, okay.
And you wrote the screenplay for House, right? The William Kent film?
Yeah.
Yeah, House was a Steve Miner actually directed that, and I named the janitor after Steve Miner. He gave me my first script assignment in Hollywood, my first real job. And yeah, House was something that I conceived to do myself as a low-budget horror film. And I just never got around to writing it, so my friend Ethan Wiley, who was my college roommate, said, hey, how about that House thing? I said, I don't have time, I'm doing other things. And so he said, can I take a shot? So he wrote it, gave it to Steve, who was my boss at the time. Steve loved it. Steve gave it to Sean Cunningham, who directed the first Friday the 13th and produced House, and he goes, I'll get you the money. And that was my first screen credit, was that.
Steve Miner was, you worked on Night of the Creeps, right?
He did second unit.
Very cool.
You guys both talked about how fun this movie was to make. What scene or scenes were the most fun and why?
What scenes were the most fun? Well, I think, go ahead.
I love the sequence of got good news, bad news. That whole sorority, the girls waiting for their dates, that whole sequence, and then I get this, a bunch of them are running somewhere. I said, don't go out there.
Where the zombies are.
Yeah, are you idiots? Oh my God, don't go into the dark room where you'll get killed. Yeah, that. But the most fun for me to do was that little close-up thing with talking to Spanky about my girl and how she got killed, and Fred kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter the more and more and more I told the story. That was my favorite to do.
I think that's the best scene in the movie. Directing is, I mean, there's a lot of people looking at you, waiting for you to slip up. And it's a little nerve-wracking, a little bit stressful. So actually having fun, I don't know if I put it that way, but I'll tell you one moment where I did, which was right towards the end of the picture when Tom's being surrounded with the zombies and he's got the girl and she gets creeped and turns into a zombie and grabs him and he grabs his gun, and there's a bit where he comes up into frame and he fires 3 times. And there's 3 cuts, and I remember that day, it was towards the end of the shoot, and I was like, you know what, I'm a movie director, so we're going to start here. I want you to put it on the dolly. We're going to spin the dolly around. And the crew looked at me like, what? I said, we're going to spin it around completely. I want Tom on the dolly, and we're going to spin the room around him. They said, okay. I said, you know, give me the 24 first, then we'll do the 50, then we'll do the 75. Let's go. And they went, cool. And Tom did it. He fired the gun, put a new lens, did it again, spun him around, and then I knew that I was going to cut those 3 shots together. And I look at that on the screen and I go, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm directing.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm curious about the actor who played Brad. Did he do this before or after Mom's Family?
Alan Kaiser
Alan.
did it before. You saw him at that
I did. I saw Alan in Louisville, Kentucky at a horror movie convention about 3 years ago. It was great seeing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like yesterday or something.
It was before. It was before Mama's
Yeah.
He's so interesting because he plays such a jerk in this, and he's such a bumpkin in the other. So it's hard for me